Alrighty, so it's exactly 12:05 or 3:05 on the East Coast. So let's go ahead and get started. Once again, I am Carmen Leonor Lopez. I use the she series, but anything is fine with me as long as it's respectful. I am the program manager for Ask Every Student, which is a program or an initiative that was launched by, amongst other organizations, Campus Vote Project, All In, Campus Democracy Challenge, the Students Learn, Students Vote Coalition, and NASPA. You're here today, so that means you are probably interested in being a voter-friendly campus or already are and would like to keep that status, et cetera, et cetera. VFC, the Voter-Friendly Campus Designation, is sponsored by Campus Vote Project and NASPA, if you do not know. So we definitely built our program bearing in mind that this is what we are all working towards, basically action plan generation and sorry, I'm trying to exit because my notes are behind. Trying to generate action plans and specifically voter-friendly campus action plans, or All In, etc. Okay, so let's get started. Next slide, Maddie, please. Ask Every Student aims to help folks build these action plans that are going to be voter-friendly, etc. But really the question at its core is, what would it take to ask every student at your institution to participate in our democracy? We've started by creating tools that help folks integrate, execute, and institutionalize voter registration efforts. Next slide, please. And the different ways that folks can integrate, execute, and institutionalize voter registration efforts are included, or some of them are mentioned and included in the latest edition of the Strengthening American Democracy Guide, which is the guiding text, or one of the guiding texts that Campus Vote Project, NASPA, and our partners also at All In refer folks to in order to generate action plans. So we focus on inviting every student to participate in our democracy via voter registration specifically, but really the tools that we help, that we've generated and which are mentioned and frequently referenced in the Strengthening American Democracy Guide can be used far beyond that. Next slide, please. And to check out these references and everything else that you're going to hear about today, like upcoming programming that we have and specific initiatives that are about to launch, everything you can find on our website at studentvoting.org. At the end of our presentation, we'll also Maddie and I will share our emails and Calendly links so folks can set up a time to meet or send any questions. But let's dive in to what Ask Every Student is actually all about. So I kind of alluded to this. We are trying to we support campuses in launching efforts to ask every student to participate in our democracy by integrating it seamlessly and as efficiently as possible into pre-existing campus processes. So for example, working with faculty to integrate voter registration into the classroom, incorporating voter registration into orientation, welcome week, academic advising, etc., and getting buy-in from relevant stakeholders and gatekeepers. So the tools that we use to do so, my colleague Maddie will really dive into in our next section of the presentation. But to really look at the Ask Every Student framework, you have to know we are all about integrating, executing, and institutionalizing. Integrating seamlessly, executing in effective, inclusive, individualized ways. So executing these voter registration efforts Ask Every Student using research-driven insights from partners like Ideas 42, or even Ask Every Student participants like the University of Indiana Bloomington, research that has been done all over the country on many, many campuses, different sizes, different types of campuses, that show that accessing 3 to 5 minutes of one-on-one time with students is an effective way to execute voter registration and have folks participate in democracy in the long term. And then we want to make sure that these efforts can be can occur after the first year, or after you graduate if you're a student, or after you leave for another position, or what have you. So making sure that these tactics are a sustainable part of your campus culture. Institutionalizing, executing, and integrating all go hand in hand. And Maddie, again, will go over some of the tools to do so. But in the meanwhile, next slide, I'm going to share a little bit more about who Ask Every Student is and how we support campuses and their efforts to do these things. So we aim to help folks integrate or incorporate, so I shouldn't say integrate because that's part of our framework lingo, but incorporate these efforts into, for example, their action plan. As I mentioned, the steering committee organizations are all action plan oriented organizations, but we do so with a variety of local and national partners, from Arizona-based Aliento, which is also focuses on dreamers, and we work closely with them to ensure our programming is as inclusive as possible. So even though it's about voter registration, we want to help folks make sure that their conversations are accessible to everyone and are not intimidating to anyone. And anyway, a variety of national and local partners, as well as over 185 campuses across the United States. They participate in our commitment level campuses, and in a second I'm going to explain what that is, but we have over 220 campuses are part of the Ask Every Student community. So what does that mean? Maddie, next slide please. Campuses can be part of the Codesigner cohort, they can be part of the commitment cohort, or they can just be a part of the general Ask Every Student community. Ask Every Student community also incorporates organizations that provide support or networking opportunities, information opportunities for the campuses we work with and for each other. So it's a space that anybody can access and doesn't really require any specific actions initiated by the campus. But anybody that is interested in attending any of our programming, using any of our tools, and learning immediately when the tools come out can be a part of the Ask Every Student community. To do so, all you have to do is either sign up, state your interest on our website at the bottom of the page here, studentvoting.org/campus-participation, or sign up via Zoom or whatever. Zoom, that's where we have our things, via Zoom to attend any of our programming. And the next level up is commitment. The commitment campuses may apply for and receive funding. We have just finished a round of funding for 2021, but we will likely have funding available in 2022. If your campus is interested in receiving funding, or also an added benefit for commitment campuses, having partner direct support with the national and local organizations that are part of our network. This can provide you with a broader range of insight, provide a frequent touch point. You set with the organization that you're partnered with, you set up like regular meeting times, not every week. You can decide to meet quarterly. You can decide you can decide not to meet regularly and instead just have somebody be available. Those organizations are collaborating organizations And commitment campuses, in addition to having access to all of the Ask Every Student resources and programming, they also have access to the support and are eligible to apply for funding. So that's what a commitment campus is. And finally, co-designer campuses, these are institutions that actively participate in the resource development process. Part of what makes Ask Every Student so special, in addition to being academic research driven or data driven, is the fact that our resources are developed by folks who actually are using them, and they're based on their actual lived experiences. My colleague Maddie is going to dive into this. She is the manager of this program. She oversees the Co-Designer program, and we actually, very exciting, have applications or accepting applications to be a part of the 2022 Co-Designer Cohort throughout 2022. I said that the deadline is January 15th, 2022. So we have the community, no commitment required, just get all the information you want. Commitment, a bit more of we're just asking you to commit to make an effort to ask every student, and we give you a ton of different resources and direct support and co-designers to be a part of designing this programming. And on that note, I turn to Maddie.
Cool. Thank you so much for that amazing overview, Carmen, as always. I see that there's also some folks who have seen this presentation similarly before. And as always, Carmen does a great job at explaining everything about what Ask Every Student is. So I will start diving in a little bit to, okay, cool. So we have this framework, we have these ways that you can plug into it. There's so many ways that you can take part in this movement. But what are the things that Ask Every Student will give you? And what does it really look like to ask every student on your campus? What are the resources? And first of all, the resources that we have are very plentiful. One, we have a human-centered design toolkit that also uplifts different campus strategies through this thing I will share a little bit more about soon called the playbook. We also have programming. So there's community open hours that will be starting those open hours up again next year. We have some info sessions, like some drop-in, like casual sessions that we'll be having for the rest of this year that we'll talk about at the end too. We do trainings on the resources. There's a monthly newsletter that's very beautiful that uplifts campus strategies, shares new resources that can help you do this work, and just has lots of really great like events and different kinds of things that you can also use to support this work. There's also funding opportunities as they're available. We uplift those in the newsletter, so make sure to join the community if you want to hear about them. And like Carmen said, we do offer one-on-one support to make it as easy as possible for you to implement these Ask Every Student strategies. So by joining the community or any of those different tiers that Carmen mentioned, you get first access to new tools. So I'll share a little bit more about what those new tools are going to look like next year in just a moment. But just to go over a little bit, like what is this toolkit that we keep referencing? We have structured the toolkit to be really similar to the structure of like the framework itself. So we have tools to help you integrate into those existing processes. So we focused a lot last year with the Co-Designer cohort. So this toolkit was created in collaboration with actually 30 campuses across the country, some of whom I see on this call right now. Hello. Thank you for helping create this. And especially due to COVID, we were like, okay, what is the one place where students are going to be? The class, the virtual class, maybe sometimes it was in-person classes. So we really wanted to focus on what does it look like to integrate into the classroom. And so we created the Faculty Champions Toolkit. It's on our website in the toolkit. Definitely recommend checking it out. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We also made a Canvas module template. So this is all really about focusing on integration. So as a preview for next year, we're going to really want to try to focus continuously more on that integration piece. So what does it look like to integrate into other parts of campus processes besides the classroom? And what does it look like to even make the way that we're doing classroom integration like even stronger with our faculty partners? So that'll be one thing that we'll be focusing on in 2022. So stay tuned, or apply to be a co-designer and take part in making it. I'll talk more about that later too. Something we focused a lot on the toolkit last year, and also we updated some stuff this year for it as well, is that execution piece. So you might remember doing voter engagement work with students in 2020. I hope you do remember that, and it's not fully in the back of your mind, because that's how it is for me sometimes. But for the execution toolkit, we made training slides so that you can train individuals to have conversations about voter registration and participation, democratic engagement, a conversation guide that went along with that training. We created the civic engagement packet that I'll share a little bit more about to help streamline really large scale voter registration. We also created like a navigating digital guide that can help you like see all of the different kinds of like digital tools and websites to help you with this work in digital space. And also uplifting the Vote for Astra toolkit to sustain conversations about voter registration and getting out the vote itself. We also have some tools that we uplift for institutionalization. So we're going to be focusing on a coalition building curriculum as well in 2022 that we already started a little bit this year. And I'll share a little bit of that also. So if you're interested, especially in like, what does it look like to integrate into existing processes with partners, if you're interested in coalition building, how to create like a curriculum and guides and resources to help campuses create like really vibrant, diverse, equitable, inclusive coalitions for full student voter participation. Those are two big things we'll be focusing on. And we also uplift stuff like the Strengthening American Democracy Guide, the Navigating the SLSV Coalition tools, presidential commitment. So those are some of those pieces in the toolkit. You can find all of it on our website if you just click the toolkit button on the top. We also uplift campus strategies. So we have this thing called the Ask Every Student Playbook. If you want to learn about what other campuses are doing, I'm going to give a couple highlights just in a moment from this playbook, but we are always interested in sharing more about what campuses themselves are doing. And we have some good ones lined up that we'll be sharing more strategically over the course of the next year when people are really engaged. And we also have an archive of the tools that we made in 2020. So there was a lot of meeting the moment that happened. I'm sure there's going to be more of those kinds of things as well in 2022. So you can also check those out, but probably don't use a lot of them necessarily because the information is for 2020 and things have changed. So just a little bit of like diving into a few of these tools, not to spend too much time on it now. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat though, if you have any. Happy to answer them. So the Faculty Champion Toolkit that I mentioned earlier, if you go to studentvoting.org/integration, you can find it there. This was created in partnership with a lot of really wonderful campus partners in 2020. I always want to uplift Sarah Baston from UT Austin. I see that there's a UT Austin friend in the chat today. She really did like a lot of amazing help in really building this and writing a lot of the stuff for it too. So this is a toolkit though that you can use to integrate voter engagement, democratic engagement into the classroom with faculty partners. And basically the whole way that this model works is trying to meet faculty where they're at. So like faculty have a lot on their plate. They have different incentives that you could use by like listening to them and understanding them for your own campus context, and also making sure that you're giving your partners, like your faculty partners, all of the information and opportunities that they need so that they don't have to do this from scratch. Not everybody is like super trained on how to do voter engagement, and sometimes it's really tricky to integrate it into the classroom. So this is a way to kind of make it more streamlined, and also just kind of meeting your faculty partners where they're at the best that you can. So the toolkit includes like activity menus and ideas for things you could do in the classroom. Also a points-based award system if you want to do that. Some campuses have done that, which is really fun. There's also like outreach materials, so like template emails, Google Forms, spreadsheets for systematizing all of it and getting into all the classes, and some organizing models. So definitely check that out if you're interested in engaging with faculty. So that's, you know, for that integration piece. So for an execution piece, right? So you want to have like that individualized, personal, streamlined conversations about voter registration and engagement. So this is a tool that you can use to streamline really large scale voter registration and democratic engagement conversations. And this is really well suited for like in-person stuff. And you can use this for a lot of different things. So maybe you have a table at orientation that is a checkpoint that all the students have to go through. This is a really good packet that you can use to like on your end, like file everything, figure out what states people are voting at, figure out like what the address is, being able to error check really easily. It also allows you to create opt-out instead of opt-in in a way that is like really inclusive and sensitive to non-eligible students. So no one has to say that they're not eligible. They can just say, I'm opting out, which is very important. And then also there's a little exit ticket that they get to keep at the back where they can create a voting plan and they can see all of the different things you've done. So here's a Cleveland State University version that our good friend Sebastian Canales created for his context. And so that's another tool we have. We also made a voter registration presentation, information presentation. This is once again all on the website. And this actually uses a lot of the research insights from a study done by Menlo College about Ask Every Student on campuses to figure out what are the things that students like really need the most, what's the most important information you can give them based off of like a lot of qualitative feedback. So you can use this template presentation for your own context and there's instructions in it, talks about all of the different pieces that people have said is the most important things that they wanted to know. So we also have a few different campus highlights in here, but I want to take a second to just pause. We've just shared so many things. If anyone has any questions or anything, please feel free to unmute yourself or go into the chat. Okay, cool. Giving it that 2-second pause. Amazing. Okay, so here's a couple campuses that are in that playbook that we shared about. So you can learn more about them in the playbook, but one of our amazing Codesigner campuses in 2020 was Alabama A&M University. They're a 4-year public HBCU in Normal, Alabama. And they received a $35,000 Ask Every Student implementation grant in 2020 that they were able to use to actually give stipends to every single one of their residential advisors to integrate voter registration conversations into the meetings that they had with their residents. This was especially important in 2020 because the only people that were able to talk to residents were the RAs because contact was so limited. If you read the playbook article about them, they have a lot of really amazing insights for what it can look like to do this work with RAs. And they only started their initiative in this kind of way in 2020, but they had a lot of amazing institutional support from the president. There was actually like an amazing story that Monica Clark, who is our partner at Alabama A&M, shared about how that one time when they were trying to do some GOTV stuff, Monica and the president of the college went and knocked on every student's door themselves. And it was a beautiful story where Monica was like, I'm getting tired. And the president like hands out his hand to her and he's like, no, we got to do this. We got to ask every student, which makes me emotional every time I hear about it. So you can learn more about that at the playbook. Another campus, another Codesigner campus from 2020, the University of San Francisco. They did really amazing work as well. So they are a 4-year private Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution in Anapeasy in San Francisco, California. They received a $5,000 Codesigner grant and they had so much amazing student power. You can learn once again more about their whole strategy, but something I want to uplift about their work here is that they were able to mobilize like 60 student leaders on their campus. And through that, they did incredibly amazing work to actually have all of those students that they were able to mobilize reach out to all of the professors that they had ever had while attending their like institution to show up to those classes because they had those relationships already with those faculty and do presentations and help all of the students know about everything they had to do to vote. So that's a really good example of how students can leverage their own relationships with faculty as a way to integrate into the classroom. And they did a lot of other amazing work too that I would really recommend reading more about what they've done as well. This is a little bit of a preview for the coalition building curriculum, actually, but it's another really amazing campus highlight I want to share about North Carolina A&T University. They're a public four-year HBCU in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I think they've just done an amazing work. They've done amazing work on so many different levels, but wanted to uplift what does this look like for coalition building as well? Like, how can you use coalition building as a vehicle for asking every student? One of the things that I really loved in the conversation we had with Tiffany, see right there, was she said, for the work we're trying to do, we asked who are the key constituents on campus needed to be part of the conversation. So really thinking about like, who are the people on your campus to bring into this work, so you're not just doing it alone. That really creates a more institutionalized approach. Here's the different subcommittees they have. So they have all of these like working groups, and that's where the work gets done. And they're all led by, there's like a student leader who co-chairs them, and they're able to really focus on all these issue areas really in depth. And one of them is their voter registration and champion training. And that's where they can get all of the work they really need to get done for campus-wide voter registration training and voter registration through Ask Every Student as well. So we can talk about the campuses that do this work forever. And I see that there are also people on this call that I would also love to hear you share stuff about if you want to later. But I'm going to keep going for time's sake. And we can have a little we'll have a little conversation at the end of this presentation too, if folks have time. So the last piece of that I will have to share before I turn it back over to Carmen, who is very who can wrap us up and has a lot of other great stuff to share after me, is that the opportunity to become part of the Ask Every Student Codesigner cohort is open again. So we have not been really doing it for the past 6 months because we've been transitioning a lot of pieces, but it is now open again to apply, and you can apply by January 15th. So we've been talking a little bit about the Ask Every Student co-designers, and really what it is, it's like a diverse group of student, faculty, and campus leaders across the country who collaboratively design innovative resources for campus to implement scalable, nonpartisan strategies that ask every student at their institution to participate in the democratic process, beginning with voter registration. So what we are recruiting for right now is if you or anyone else you know, that can be a faculty member, a campus staff member, administrator, student leader, who seems like they're really interested in designing resources and designing strategies collaboratively with other local leaders like yourselves, like across the country, to really make it so that this work is adaptable and implementable at any institution. We are prioritizing applicants who are from campuses that represent a lot of historically underrepresented students, such as minority serving institutions, community colleges, HBCUs, and campuses that have a lot of contexts that I would be really, really helpful in applying this work to understand how this can work best for everybody. Also, we're prioritizing applicants who have a really clear understanding of like why they want to be doing this work. So we are having some info sessions that you can drop into, or you can like have a conversation with me if you're interested in learning more about this opportunity. But there's a lot of benefits to it. There's a lot of really great things that you can do in terms of community building and networking, professional development, and also just really collaborating for greater impact to make it so that every campus is able to ask every student to participate in their democracy, which is in and of itself very special. I really love the co-designers that we got to work with last year, and some of y'all are here, and hello. And if you are a campus member who was not doing co-designing last year and you want to join in for this time, we would love to see you too. So the opportunity is open through January 15th. You can learn more about it actually on our website, which I'll drop in the link right here. And yeah, that's what that is. If anyone has any questions, we'll open up questions in a moment, but I will turn it back over to Carmen for all the other ways you can get involved.
Thank you, Maddie. And thank you so much for providing that overview of all of only some of the amazing campus playbook pages that we have up already. And folks should definitely look forward to seeing more of those because we are releasing them on a monthly basis. But I wanted to make sure or share with you guys our contact information and information to schedule meetings with us. If you want to talk about just the program generally, how you could fit into, how your campus could fit into the program, feel free to reach out to me or set up directly an appointment via my Calendly link. And for Maddie, especially anything having to do with resource or strategy development and the Codesigner program, I have also plugged in your or her email and Calendly page. I did want to mention real quick, the Strengthening American Democracy Guide, or rather the action plan template, covers an executive summary. They ask you about leadership, commitment, landscape, goals, strategy, NSOLV, reporting, and evaluation. And these are all things that Ask Every Student attempts to incorporate, not just in one tool, but across the board of the tools that we support y'all in using to build an action plan. So whether it is recruiting your leadership, building a coalition, which Maddie mentioned is one of the working groups for this year, whether it's about how you can demonstrate your commitment and how your campus is committing to voter mobilization and democratic participation efforts, whether it's about gauging your landscape and setting goals for the future, setting up strategy for long-term and short-term strategies. These are all things and more. These are all things that Ask Every Student incorporates, not just in a singular tool, but across the program. So really for action planning, you got to check it out. And next slide, please. For not just for action planning, but also to really have a community of practitioners. So whether it's campus folks or organizations, Ask Every Student, something that makes it really special is that it creates a community where folks can group solve and group think through conundrums that they face on every campus or on any campus. Whether you are a small community college in rural Arizona or a large four-year institution in urban Pennsylvania, across the board, you would be shocked the number of times that I've seen incredible folks resolve conundrums, questions, problems that they've had on their campus with an institution that is totally different or totally the same, but in a different place. So the community aspect of Ask Every Student really helps folks figure out things that consistently strike on college campuses and any campus across the board. We have monthly open hours, but from now until the January 15th deadline to apply for co-designers, in lieu of open hours, we will be having Manny mentioned this, half-hour info sessions or drop-in sessions on Wednesdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Right, Manny? Is that correct? Yes, and you can access all that information at studentvoting.org/programming. So, just if you have a couple questions and you're not really sure that you want to set up a one-on-one meeting with us yet, drop into one of those open hours and learn more. So with that, it is now time for discussion. Any questions? As Manny mentioned, there's a lot of folks on this call that have already participated in the program. So any thoughts? We're always trying to improve, so don't hesitate to share any thoughts. Anything also, Maddie, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, if folks have questions, this is a good time. We're here. Anything goes. If folks need to jump off, that's also chill. But we can also have a little bit of a conversation because Carmen and I always really love to hear about how y'all think you might be able to ask every student on your campus. I see some familiar faces here already. If folks do want to share, because I know some of you are doing the work to ask every student on your campus. And also if anyone wants to share thoughts about how they are thinking about going about this as well. So questions or sharing your thoughts about how this could work for you.
If maybe you're wondering about like some of the specific programs that Maddie shared that are happening on some campuses that are part of Ask Every Student, or maybe some of the tools that we alluded to, how they fit into not just action plan generation, but execution on your campus of these things, like for sure, like coalition building has a huge part to do with leadership, which is a core component of your action plans. We wanted to just make sure that this was a space where folks can learn about Ask Every Student, but there are so many tools, we couldn't possibly cover them all here. So if anything that we want to dive further into, now is the time, or later too is also another time. I see a raised hand. Is this Janae?
Yes, perfect. So I have a question. I go to the University of Texas at Austin, and we have on average like 50,000 students in any given year. So the concept of like asking every student is daunting. We have pretty strong voter education efforts. We have good coalitions. We have administrative support, I suppose. But I was just wondering if y'all had any like programs or any resources specifically for trying to convince like the tippity top of admins that like it's worthwhile to send out an email that says like, hey, it's National Voter Registration Day, or it's this or it's that. That's the thing that we're really struggling with at UT is like everyone in the bottom like 80% is on board. And then we're doing as much as we can as students and with the lower level admins, but it's kind of hard to ask every student when we don't have access to every student. So that was just something I was curious about.
I will give a shot to answer this, but also want to open it to anyone else who is doing this work themselves here, or anyone else at all. So we've actually been able to work with so many amazing folks from UT Austin. We're a big UT Austin fan club, honestly. And yeah, that's definitely the thing that we've been hearing a lot. And that's part of like kind of what the Codesigner cohort is for, because ultimately, like, yeah, I can't tell you that answer. That's something that would have to be like really explored for your context too. That said, All In does have the higher ed educational presidential commitment. There's a proper name for it if anyone wants to actually put it in there or share it, that I think is like a really, really great opportunity to get that that higher administrative buy-in through a national movement. Something that I think we're really interested in exploring though, in the upcoming Codesigner cohort in a really focused way is like, how does that actually, like, how do you make it actionable? How do you take it from the commitment or the sign on, if you can get to that spot, to the actions needed to take next? So I feel like this is a really good community and a really good space, if that's something you're interested in exploring, to really kind of hyper focus on it, and use like design thinking. Human-centered design thinking is like a really good process to figure out what that could look like. So my answer right now is like, yeah, there is that resource that exists out there with the All In Campus Democracy Challenge. And I think it's a really, really good topic to explore and to try to figure out like that specific strategy, that beautiful little system for making it happen with other folks, because it's a common struggle for sure. I see that Naomi added some really great insight here though, if you wanted to share more.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I worked as an academic, as a study abroad advisor, but academic advisors, program coordinators, um, event planners, assistant directors, we would all meet monthly um, to talk about different agenda items that advisors or um, student-facing staff would want to be informed about. And so I think that that would be a really good outlet. Plus, I feel like the deans all at UT Austin work in their own silos. And so it might be something where you reach out to the dean's office and give them maybe the reports of, voter registration and voter turnout for their college and see if there's a way that you can be at some of their bigger events for voter registration.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, if you want to connect, I can send you my email address as well.
Yes, please. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. This is actually a perfect example of how how the Ask Every Student community is able to like group think and group resolve. Maddie mentioned the all-in presidential commitment thingy. Name forgot. The all-in presidential commitment. And obviously Naomi has this personal experience. This is exactly how these what being a part of the Ask Every Student community is all about. And I also want to mention by being a part of the Ask Every Student commitment cohort or co-designer cohort, you have these individual matchups with organizations. All co-designers are individually matched up with Maddie and the SLSB Coalition organization. But these individualized matchups are for the most part with either Maddie or myself. And what you end up being able to get is inside folks who have had direct experience with something similar to this, the same way that our community open hours give you insight from other campuses. For example, I existed before my role here and had other jobs, and in previous positions definitely have had to encounter questions like this. So like when Naomi, for example, when Naomi mentioned the advisors roundtables, adopting our classroom announcement conversation guide to having a conversation with higher ups at your institution, that's the kind of thing that we could help you do. So sometimes there's not a direct answer already existing for your question, but the support that Ask Every Student offers can allow you to mold the existing resources and the existing experience out there to resolve your question, or at least to address your question. But yeah, you should definitely ask Naomi for her email, but also feel free to email me and I can share with you some of the resources I have used or I have developed in previous conversations with university, because I'm getting from your question that it's not really just about like for example, advisor level, but like higher up maybe level. Yeah, so doing that. And then also, as we mentioned, All In is one of our steering committee members. They can also help you leverage the fact that I'm guessing UT Austin has already made the president's commitment. So sometimes they forget, and our dear friends at All In can help remind them of that, or send, like, for example, a congratulatory email. Congratulations for being picked again to be a co-designer campus, which is not a promise at all, but things like this. The point here is that Ask Every Student is a very organic community of sharing and group resolving.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Any other thoughts or questions? Maybe folks can share also in the chat the states that they are coming in from. I see, like, of course, JLP, Noel. Hey, how's it going? George, so we have some Georgia representation here. I know earlier I saw, I think she had to take off, Maryland here, SUNY Brockport, so New York, of course, Kristen, the bomb. I think Kristen, I'm not sure if she's here anymore, but still the bomb from Wisconsin. And these huge range of states represent really a huge variety of voter regulations. And sometimes these are very unique situations that somebody only in your state can really provide insight, or perhaps in states with similar regulations can provide insight too. Ask Every Student can also help you connect with folks there. Even if it's not exactly your state, but a state with similar hoops, barriers, I don't know, similar questions. We definitely see that. Let's see, where else are folks coming in from? Is Marietta College in Georgia also? Ohio, not at all. Georgia.
There is a Marietta, Georgia. I used to live there, but
oh,
yes.
Phew.
Right. Yeah. And Kennesaw State has a Marietta campus.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel better. But we have Marietta College here. Amy, not to call you out, and I'm not sure. Oh, yes. How big is your campus here? Well, I'm going to Google it because I am very curious how big Marietta College is. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Amy. Totally. So, okay, Marietta, 1,000 people. This, I was wondering because some of the campuses that are here are very small and some of the campuses are very big. And one of the most exciting things when we have community open hours is how folks from totally different states and totally different campus sizes and totally different campus types are facing the same problems, which obviously is not exciting to them because problems are bad, but how together we can group think through solutions. And we try to make sure that our open hours are as accessible as possible, but also directly connect folks to each other to provide insight. A lot of people ask, like, Ask Every Student, what is it? How is it different than these other amazing organizations and programs that are out there? It's really that it's a community that allows folks to connect with each other. And I think of my job kind of as being like a concierge. You have a question, you have a problem, you have a great idea. I want to help you find people that can benefit from your great idea or can help you answer your question or address your problem. So while we know that there's so many things out there that it can be a little bit overwhelming for campuses to have so many resources, and folks can ask, why would we want to join another program? Because sometimes you need somebody to help navigate those programs and those resources. And so a lot of the time, the best answer actually comes from other campuses. So this very mindful community that connects the different dots out there, that's what Ask Every Student is all about. But really mostly asking every student. That's what Ask Every Student is all about. Asking every student to register to vote and participate in our democratic process. Democracy. Let's save it. Any questions out there? I'm going to have a pretend question. Okay, Carmen, I'm curious. Like, what about, for example, I don't think it's going to be possible for this year for my institution to ask every student. Maybe one year we could ask every student. Let's say I am my closest campus where I live, Santa Monica College. It's a 2-year community college in Southern California. It's a huge institution. California has accessible voting laws. However, it's a huge institution. A lot of our students are international. So it may be a little bit awkward to ask these questions. I want to become a commitment campus. Can I become a commitment campus if I don't think we're going to be able to ask every student this year, maybe not even next year or the following year? Yes, absolutely. Please do. Wait, I should have paused. Oh, good question, you person. Response: yes, absolutely. You should consider becoming an Ask Every Student campus, because being part of the community, being part of the commitment cohort, or being part of the co-designer cohort, these are all just about making best effort to do so. We firmly believe it's possible to ask every student, but this program isn't about checking off and making sure that you do in 1 year, but it's about growing a program that does so mindfully, will be able to do so in years to come. And there's no requirement whatsoever that you accomplish this in 1 year. It's very hard to get any big boulders moved like that on a college campus. When rocking the boat is kind of hard on a college campus, and we know this is a bit of a rock the boat initiative. So we do not expect you to do so, and you should consider becoming an Ask Every Student campus. You should consider applying for Ask Every Student funding. You should consider applying to be a part of the Ask Every Student co-designer cohort, regardless of whether you think it's going to be possible or not possible to accomplish this right now in a 1 year or 2 years. It's really just about making that incremental change and creating the culture on your campus that makes it possible. I don't have any other imaginary questions. Thank you.
Well, I suppose we could give y'all back these last 3 minutes of your hour. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this VFC webinar. I will turn it over to Mike to close us out.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Much appreciated, Carmen and Maddie, and everyone who joined us today to talk about Ask Every Student, and everybody, including folks on here who helped build so many of the amazing tools that are part of that project that we'll continue to refine and iterate on going into the midterms. This is our last VFC of the year. There will not be a VFC webinar in December. Who knows, maybe we'll take January off too. I'm feeling pretty tired today, so it might be a little bit before we're back with these, but we'll be thinking about you. Just a quick reminder, statements of interest for the next round of the Voter Friendly Campus are open now, and the deadline to apply is the end of January. So you will be hearing from us about that in the new year as well, if you haven't already done that. But we'll be taking a little bit of a break, at least from the webinar series, but all of the webinars get recorded and they go up on the resource page on the Voter Friendly Campus website as well. And we've got quite a stockpile of some awesome content that we covered already this year that we'll be revisiting again next year. So thanks everybody. Have a great day. Have a great week.